If you're a gentleman over the age of 60 and you've been told that getting up to go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times a night is just part of getting older, I'm here to tell you that's simply not true. It isn't normal, and it certainly isn't something to ignore. The real reason behind it might really surprise you, because there's a common, everyday habit, something you likely do without even a second thought, that could be quietly inflaming your prostate, disrupting your precious sleep, and gradually diminishing your overall well-being. And sadly, it seems like nobody's talking about it. Not your friends, not your family, and maybe not even your own doctor. I'm Dr. Anya Sharma, and I've dedicated my career to men's health, with over 30 years of experience addressing prostate issues, erectile challenges, low testosterone, and all those things that impact a man's vitality. I've had the privilege of guiding countless men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s to rediscover their strength, their confidence, and their independence. And today, I want to help you gain a clearer understanding. Many men assume their prostate enlarges just because they're aging. But that's only part of the story. What if I told you that your age isn't the primary culprit? That this often overlooked daily habit is actually triggering a subtle inflammation that leads to that constant urgency, that frustrating dribbling, and all those tiresome nighttime bathroom visits? Stick with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly what this habit is, why it's so harmful, and how you can address it naturally, without relying on medications or surgery. I'll also share a simple 15-second bedtime routine that my patients use to sleep soundly through the night and finally feel like themselves once again. Before we get started, if you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you won't miss any of my prostate health tips specifically designed for men over 60. And if this message resonates with you, please type a 1 in the comments below. If not, type a 0, so I know how to better tailor my content to your needs. Let's begin by exploring the first hidden habit, something that many men believe is actually good for their prostate, when in reality, it's often making things worse. If you've ever deliberately reduced your fluid intake in the evening to avoid waking up at night, it's crucial that you understand the truth behind this potentially harmful misconception. Habit number 10. Limiting water intake to avoid nighttime urination. I can't tell you how many times I've had men in their 60s, 70s, even their early 80s, sit in my office and proudly tell me that they've started drinking less water in the evenings so they won't have to get up to use the bathroom so often during the night. And each time, I gently shake my head and say, I understand your intention, but that habit might actually be making your symptoms even more pronounced. It seems logical, doesn't it? Less fluid should mean less urine, and therefore, fewer trips to the bathroom. However, here's the crucial point that often goes unmentioned. When you restrict your fluid intake too much, particularly later in the day, your urine becomes more concentrated. It becomes darker, more acidic, and more irritating to your bladder. That irritation creates pressure, and that pressure puts additional strain on your already sensitive prostate. The result? You may actually experience the urge to urinate more frequently, not less. When your bladder is consistently exposed to highly concentrated urine, it becomes agitated and overactive. It starts sending premature signals to empty, even when it's only partially full. And that's precisely why so many men find themselves waking up at 1 a.m., then again at 3 a.m., and then yet again at 5 a.m., rushing to the bathroom with urgency, only to pass a small amount of urine. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, and it slowly erodes your confidence and your overall quality of life. I've had patients who were nearly in tears, simply longing for one full night of uninterrupted sleep. I understand completely, but the answer isn't to deprive your body of the water it needs. In fact, dehydration is one of the most frequently overlooked triggers of prostate inflammation. Without enough water, your body struggles to flush out toxins, your tissues can swell, and the healing process slows down significantly. So, what should you do instead? It's quite simple, really. Focus on hydrating consistently throughout the day. Don't wait until you feel thirsty, because that means you're already behind. Instead, sip small amounts of water regularly from morning until early evening. Aim for urine that's light and clear. That's your body's way of telling you that everything is in balance. And if you're concerned about drinking too close to bedtime, Simply reduce your fluid intake about 90 minutes before you go to sleep, but don't stop altogether. Water isn't the enemy here. It's actually your ally. It's the most natural and readily available tool you have to soothe your bladder, ease the pressure on your prostate, and enjoy a peaceful night's sleep. Now, you might be wondering, if reducing water intake can worsen the problem, what about sitting for extended periods? Could that relaxing afternoon in your favorite recliner also be contributing to your prostate issues? Let's explore that further. Habit number 9. Prolonged sitting without movement. I recall one of my patients, a retired school principal named Frank. He shared with me that he spent most of his day sitting, whether he was watching television, reading the newspaper, or working on puzzles at his kitchen table. "Doc," he said with a chuckle, "I've certainly earned this rest." And he had. However, what Frank didn't realize, and what many men don't realize, is that too much sitting, especially as we get older, can quietly undermine our prostate health. Here's what happens. When you sit for long stretches, particularly without standing or stretching, you create constant, low-level pressure on your pelvic region. That pressure reduces blood flow to the prostate. And when blood flow is compromised, inflammation can build up. Your body can't deliver essential nutrients as efficiently, and it can't effectively remove waste products. The tissues surrounding your prostate may begin to swell, and you might start noticing increased urgency, a weaker urine stream, or even discomfort while you're sitting. It doesn't happen overnight, which is what makes it so insidious. It creeps in gradually, a few extra bathroom trips here, a restless night there, and a growing sense that something just isn't quite right. I've seen it countless times. Men who feel confined to their chairs and then become trapped in a cycle of worsening symptoms. The truth is, our bodies are designed to move. Movement isn't just about fitness or weight loss. It's about promoting healthy circulation and maintaining energy levels. And for men over 60, it's one of the most effective ways to safeguard the prostate. The good news is that you don't need a gym membership or a complicated exercise routine. One simple guideline can make a world of difference. Every 30 minutes, stand up. That's all it takes. Simply stand up, stretch your arms, take a few steps, look out the window. Set a gentle reminder if you need to. These brief movements relieve pressure, restore blood flow, and signal to your body that it's still active, still vital, still alive. Frank took that advice to heart. He set a timer and made a point of moving every half hour. Within just 2 weeks, he was sleeping more soundly. And within a month, he reported feeling lighter, more energized, and more in control. So, if you find yourself spending long hours sitting, whether you're watching sports, reading, or simply relaxing, remember that a body at rest can invite silent problems, while a body in motion invites healing. And speaking of hidden troublemakers, there's another one that often finds its way into your daily routine, your morning coffee. Could that seemingly innocent cup be irritating your prostate more than you realize? Let's take a closer look. Habit number 8, excessive caffeine consumption. I'll be honest with you, this one is close to my heart. I love the aroma of freshly brewed coffee in the morning. That first warm sip can feel like a small indulgence. And for many of the men I see, particularly those who are retired and finally enjoying slow, peaceful mornings, that daily cup of coffee becomes almost a sacred ritual. But here's what I've learned after decades of treating prostate issues. Too much caffeine, even from something as familiar and comforting as coffee or tea, can quietly wreak havoc on your bladder and your prostate. Caffeine is a stimulant. It doesn't just wake up your brain, it also stimulates your entire urinary system. It increases urine production and stimulates the bladder muscles, often leading to more frequent urges to urinate. For a healthy young man, this might be a minor inconvenience. But for someone over 60, whose prostate may already be slightly enlarged, that extra stimulation can push things over the edge. You might find yourself rushing to the bathroom more often, especially in the late morning or afternoon. Or perhaps you feel like you're never quite emptying your bladder completely. That lingering pressure, the urgency, the occasional dribble, it could all be related to your caffeine intake. One of my patients, Gary, had been drinking coffee in the morning, iced tea in the afternoon, and sometimes a cola in the evening. He had never given it a second thought. When I suggested he cut back and switch to herbal or decaf alternatives after his morning coffee, He hesitated. "Doc, I've been drinking this stuff for years." I nodded and said, "That may be precisely why it's time to make a change." Within 10 days, he noticed that he wasn't waking up as often during the night. His urine stream felt stronger, and his confidence returned. And to his surprise, he didn't miss the caffeine as much as he thought he would. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to give it up entirely. I wouldn't ask you to do that. But moderation is key. Enjoy that single cup in the morning, but consider stopping there. Your prostate and your sleep might just thank you for it. And while we're discussing what we put into our bodies, there's another category of food that can be even more disruptive to your hormones and your prostate than caffeine. And chances are, it's on your plate more often than you realize. Let's talk about that next. Habit number 7. Regularly consuming processed and spicy foods. I had a patient named Bill, 68 years old, who came to me feeling frustrated. He said, "Doc, I've cut back on soda, and I'm trying to walk more, but I'm still waking up at night to pee, and it's driving me crazy." I asked him to describe his daily diet. He paused, and then laughed. "Well, breakfast is usually bacon and eggs, lunch might be a sandwich with deli meat, and I just can't give up my spicy chili at dinner." That's when the real conversation began. You see, what many men don't realize is that food isn't just fuel, it's also information. Everything you eat sends a message to your body, and highly processed foods, like bacon, sausages, frozen meals, and even packaged snacks, are sending the wrong message to your prostate. These foods are often loaded with chemicals, unhealthy fats, and artificial preservatives that can increase inflammation throughout your body. When your prostate is already sensitive, these inflammatory signals can make things even worse. But it's not just processed foods. Spicy foods, especially hot peppers, chili powders, and sauces, can directly irritate your bladder and the pelvic nerves. And when those nerves are overstimulated, it can feel like your bladder is full, even when it's not. You might find yourself needing to go more often, with less control and more discomfort. The real issue, though, is what these foods can do to your hormones. Many processed meals contain trans fats and added sugars that can raise your estrogen levels and lower your testosterone levels. That hormonal imbalance is a known contributor to prostate growth. So, while the connection might not be immediately obvious, what you're eating could be making your symptoms worse, day after day. When Bill swapped his usual meals for more whole foods, like grilled chicken, leafy greens, avocado, berries, and a handful of walnuts, he didn't just feel better physically. He told me, "I feel more like myself, clearer, stronger, more in control." That's the power of eating to heal, instead of simply eating out of habit. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be mindful. Start with one small change. Cook more meals at home. Add one anti-inflammatory food to your diet each day. Over time, your body will respond, your prostate will calm down, and you'll sleep more soundly. But even with the perfect diet, there's one daily behavior that men often overlook, something they think is harmless, but that can act like a slow-motion earthquake for the prostate. Let's uncover that next. Habit number 6. Holding your urine for too long. It always surprises me how many men dismiss this as no big deal. I was stuck in traffic, or the game was on. I didn't want to miss the second half, or I figured I could wait until the next rest stop. I understand. Life can get hectic. But as a doctor who has spent over 3 decades treating men's health issues, I can tell you that this seemingly small habit of holding in your urine is one of the most underestimated causes of prostate trouble that I see. Let me explain what's really happening. Every time you resist the urge to urinate, your bladder stretches a little bit beyond what it should. It's like inflating a balloon just a little too much, over and over again. That constant stretching creates downward pressure directly onto your prostate. And your prostate, especially after the age of 60, isn't really built to handle that kind of pressure repeatedly. Over time, that pressure can irritate the delicate tissues, cause swelling, and even lead to tiny injuries to the nerves and muscles that help you urinate properly. That's why men who make a habit of holding it in often end up struggling with a weak urine stream, that incomplete feeling after urinating, or even increased frequency later on. It's your body's way of sounding the alarm. And there's more. When you delay urination too often, your bladder might not empty completely, leaving behind small amounts of urine. That stagnant urine can become a breeding ground for bacteria, leading to infections, which can further inflame the prostate and irritate the bladder. I remember one gentleman, Tom, a retired firefighter. He told me that he had trained himself to ignore the urge to urinate for years, during long shifts during emergencies. It was a point of pride, a badge of discipline. But now, at 67, he was waking up 5 times a night, constantly uncomfortable and frustrated. When I explained the connection, he paused, looked down, and said, "I wish someone had told me this sooner." So, here's what I tell every man now. When your body tells you to go, you go. Don't wait. Don't hold it in. Your bladder and your prostate are a team. When one suffers, the other suffers, too. Listening to your body isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. And while we're discussing daily damage, there's one habit that can be even more destructive than holding in your urine. It affects your lungs, your blood, and your prostate all at once. And even if you don't do it yourself, just being near it could be putting your health at risk. Let's talk about that next. Habit number 5, smoking, or even being around smoke. I'll never forget a man named Walter who came into my office a few years ago. He was 72, proud, strong-willed, and had worked in construction for most of his life. He looked me in the eye and said, "Doc, I quit smoking 10 years ago, but my prostate's still giving me hell." When I asked if he was ever around other smokers, he paused and nodded. Every Friday night poker game, my buddies light up like it's 1975. What Walter didn't realize is that the prostate is incredibly sensitive to environmental toxins. And cigarette smoke, whether you're inhaling it yourself or just breathing it in secondhand, is one of the most damaging exposures you can face. Each cigarette releases thousands of chemicals, many of which can restrict blood flow, decrease oxygen levels, and trigger chronic inflammation throughout your body. That includes your prostate. Over time, these chemicals can interfere with the gland's ability to heal and regenerate. The blood vessels that supply the prostate can begin to narrow, the tissues become stiff, and immune cells rush in, not to help, but to try to contain the constant assault, keeping your body in a state of low-grade inflammation. And if you're over 60, your ability to naturally detoxify from that damage has likely already slowed down. That means even occasional smoke exposure can significantly set back your prostate health. What's even more alarming is that long-term exposure to cigarette smoke doesn't just worsen benign prostate enlargement, it can also increase your risk of developing more serious conditions, including prostate cancer. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to awaken you, because it's never too late to make a change. If you're a smoker, please hear this with compassion. Quitting is hard, but it's also the single greatest gift you can give to your prostate, your heart, and your future. Help is available: medications, support groups, behavioral therapy. And if you've already quit, that's something to be incredibly proud of. But stay vigilant. Avoid secondhand smoke as much as you possibly can. Your health is still worth protecting. Walter took it seriously. He stopped going to the poker games in person and switched to hosting them at his house, making it a smoke-free environment. Within weeks, his sleep improved, his nighttime urgency eased, and his energy returned. He told me that it felt like someone had turned down the volume on his discomfort. But you might be surprised to learn that one of the most dangerous habits of all isn't about what you breathe in, it's about what you ignore. Because too many men treat their bodies worse than they treat their cars. And that's what we're going to discuss next. Habit number 4, skipping yearly prostate checkups. Not long ago, I sat across from a man named Henry. He was 66, well-dressed, polite, and clearly uncomfortable. He had been dealing with frequent urination, low energy, and a lingering ache in his lower abdomen for over a year. But this was his first time seeing a urologist. When I asked him why he had waited so long, he shrugged and said, "I didn't want to know." Henry isn't alone. Many men, strong, intelligent, hard-working men, avoid doctor visits until they can no longer ignore the symptoms. And I understand. There's fear, there's pride, and sometimes there's embarrassment. But here's what I always say. You take your car in for an oil change every few months, not because it's broken, but to keep it from breaking down. Why should your body deserve any less care? The prostate is a tricky organ. When it starts to swell or act up, it often does so quietly, with no pain, no obvious warning lights, just subtle changes, a slightly weaker urine stream, an extra trip to the bathroom, a restless night. By the time the problem becomes obvious, it may already be advanced. But when caught early, many prostate issues, whether it's benign enlargement or even early-stage cancer, can be managed with simple lifestyle changes and non-invasive treatments. That's why annual checkups are so important. A basic physical exam, a PSA blood test, and yes, Sometimes a digital rectal exam can provide life-saving information. These tools aren't about diagnosing disease, they're about preserving health, giving you the chance to stay ahead of potential problems, not chase them down later when they've grown too big to ignore. I told Henry exactly that. We ran a few simple tests, and fortunately, we caught his issue early. With a few dietary changes, stress management techniques, and a mild medication, he turned things around within a few months. But he looked at me afterward and said, "I wish I hadn't waited. I could have saved myself a year of worry." So, let me ask you, when was the last time you had your prostate checked? Not because something felt wrong, but because you wanted to stay well. If it's been more than a year, schedule that appointment. Your future self will thank you. And while getting checked is essential, what you put on your plate every day plays just as big a role, because the next habit involves something most of us grew up eating, yet it may be quietly fueling your prostate problems, meal after meal. Let's talk about that next. Habit number 3, eating too much red and processed meat. I remember a man named Joe, 70 years old, a retired Navy veteran, and a proud Texan. He came to see me after struggling for months with interrupted sleep, a sluggish urine stream, and a growing discomfort in his lower pelvis. We went over his lifestyle, and when we got to his diet, he chuckled and said, "Doc, I'm a steak guy. Always have been. Nothing beats a good ribeye." I smiled, because I hear that a lot. And believe me, I understand. There's something deeply satisfying about a hearty, meat-centered meal. It's part of our culture, our routine, even our reward after a long day. But what most men don't know is that a diet that's heavy in red and processed meats, things like bacon, sausage, deli cuts, and yes, those thick steaks, can quietly fuel the very inflammation that's making their prostate problems worse. These meats are often packed with saturated fats, preservatives, and chemicals that, over time, can lead to chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout your body. And when your prostate is already enlarged or sensitive, that inflammation acts like gasoline on a fire. It contributes to swelling, hormonal imbalance, and increased urinary symptoms, especially in men whose digestion and metabolism have slowed down with age. Beyond that, regular consumption of red and processed meat has been linked in multiple studies to a higher risk of developing more serious prostate conditions, including cancer. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it because it's preventable. The food you eat every day is one of the most powerful tools you have. It can either fight inflammation or feed it. When I suggested that Joe cut back on red meat to just once or twice a week and experiment with lean proteins like chicken, fish, beans, and lentils, he wasn't thrilled at first. But after a few weeks, he came back with a different tone. "I didn't realize how heavy I'd been feeling until I stopped," he said. "My stomach's calmer, I'm sleeping better, and I don't miss the meat as much as I thought I would." You don't have to give it up completely, just bring more balance to your plate. Focus on whole, unprocessed foods, what comes from the earth, not a factory. Your prostate will notice the difference far sooner than you think. Now, while food is a major player in your prostate health, there's another force working against you that isn't in your kitchen. It's sitting just below your beltline. And believe me, what's happening around your waistline might be doing more damage than you realize. Let's get into it. Habit number 2, belly fat and obesity. I had a patient once named Leonard. He was 64, soft-spoken, and always tried to maintain a good sense of humor, even when his symptoms were frustrating. He sat down in my office and said, "Doc, I know I've put on some weight around the middle, but how much harm can a belly really do?" I looked him in the eye and gently replied, "More than you think, Leonard, especially to your prostate. Excess belly fat isn't just extra weight. It's a metabolically active tissue that sends powerful hormonal and inflammatory signals throughout your body. This kind of fat, especially around the waist, isn't just sitting there quietly, it's actively working against you. It converts your valuable testosterone into estrogen, which can directly contribute to the growth of prostate tissue. And as estrogen levels increase and testosterone levels fall, the prostate can begin to enlarge, leading to more frequent urination, a weaker urine flow, and that persistent feeling of pressure. But it doesn't stop there. Belly fat also produces chemicals that promote inflammation, strain your cardiovascular system, and make it harder for your body to regulate blood sugar and blood flow, both of which are critical for overall vitality and sexual health. So, while it may seem like a cosmetic issue, that expanding waistline can actually signal a deeper internal imbalance. The good news is that you don't need to lose 30 or 40 pounds to see results. Studies show that even a modest 5% reduction in body weight can have a noticeable impact on prostate symptoms. And the path doesn't have to be overwhelming. For Leonard, it started with simple changes: a short walk in the morning, swapping sugary drinks for water, and adding one extra serving of vegetables to dinner each night. In just a few weeks, he noticed that he wasn't waking up as often at night and felt more energized during the day. He told me, "It's not just my prostate, it feels like I'm getting a piece of myself back." The truth is, your waistline tells a story, and when you take steps to reclaim it, you're doing far more than just losing inches. You're restoring balance where it matters most. But there's still one more habit we need to discuss. It's not something you eat, drink, or do, it's something you live with. And for many men, it's the hidden force driving all the others. It's the silent saboteur of your health, and it's time we name it. Let's talk about it next. Habit number 1. Chronic, uncontrolled stress. Of all the things we've discussed, your diet, your habits, your daily routines, this is the one that most men overlook. And yet, it may be the most powerful force affecting your prostate health. I've had patients sit across from me, well-dressed, polite, and calm on the outside, but carrying the weight of decades on the inside. One man in particular, Richard, told me, "Doc, I'm not the kind of guy who talks about stress. I just keep moving." And I nodded, because I know that story too well. Men, especially those over 60, were raised to keep it all together, to be the rock, to tough it out. But what we now understand, medically and emotionally, is that chronic stress doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your body, and in your prostate. It feels it. When you're under constant stress, your body produces elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol fuels inflammation, tightens the pelvic floor muscles, disrupts hormone production, and interferes with sleep. Over time, it can lower your testosterone levels and increase your sensitivity to pain and pressure in the pelvic region. This creates the perfect storm for prostate problems to develop and linger. You might find yourself clenching your abdomen without even realizing it, or tossing and turning at night, unable to relax. Maybe your patience is shorter, your energy is lower, and your motivation is thinner, all signs that stress is quietly wearing you down from the inside. Richard eventually opened up about the pressure he felt, worrying about his family, his finances, and his purpose now that he had retired. And that's when we began to rebuild, not with medication, but with intention. 10 minutes a day of deep breathing, a walk at sunrise, journaling once a week, connecting with friends, and perhaps most importantly, giving himself permission to rest without guilt. Within weeks, his symptoms began to ease. He started sleeping better, his urinary urgency decreased, and he told me, "I didn't realize how much I was holding in until I let it go." Managing stress isn't a sign of weakness, it's a strategy. It's taking leadership over your own health, and it just might be the foundation that makes every other healthy habit easier to adopt. So, now we've uncovered all 10 habits, some obvious, some hidden, that can silently fuel prostate enlargement and discomfort. But don't let this overwhelm you, because in the closing moments of this video, I want to share something that ties it all together, a simple nightly ritual that takes just 15 seconds, yet has changed everything for so many of my patients. Let's wrap this up together. Conclusion: you are not broken, you're simply uninformed. Over the years, I've sat across from hundreds of men just like you, frustrated, exhausted, and silently worried about what's happening to their bodies. Some feel embarrassed, some feel angry, and most feel alone. And after hearing their stories, I can tell you this with complete certainty: you are not broken, you're not weak, you're simply operating without the full picture. And now that you have it, everything can change. We've walked through the 10 most common habits that can slowly inflame the prostate: cutting back on water, sitting too long, too much caffeine, processed foods, ignoring nature's call, exposure to smoke, skipping checkups, red meat overload, belly fat, and chronic stress. Each of these might seem small in isolation, but when stacked together day after day, they can quietly create the perfect environment for your prostate to swell, your sleep to suffer, and your sense of control to slip away. But here's the part one want you to hear louder than anything else I've said: you have the power to reverse course. And it doesn't take radical change, it takes awareness. It takes small, intentional steps taken consistently. It takes listening to your body instead of overriding it. And it takes treating yourself with the same care and urgency you'd offer to someone you love. You see, most men wait until they hit a wall, until they're waking up 5 times a night, until intimacy starts to fade, until the medications start stacking up. But what if you didn't wait? What if, starting tonight, you gave your body the tools it's been quietly begging for? One of the most effective tools I've ever given my patients is what I call the 15-second bedtime ritual. It's simple, safe, and backed by the same principles we've discussed today: reducing pressure, calming the nervous system, and supporting the bladder and prostate while you sleep. Men who do this nightly have told me that they wake up less often, sleep more deeply, and finally feel in control again. And the best part is, anyone can do it, starting tonight. So, here's what I encourage you to do. Go back through the habits we discussed. Choose one that feels doable for you, and start there. Don't chase perfection, chase progress. You're not too old, and it's not too late. Your prostate is listening, and now you have a voice that knows what to say. You've made it this far. That tells me you're ready. Let's move forward together. If this video helped you, even in a small way, please take a moment to like it. It lets me know that this content is making a difference. Share it with a friend, a brother, or someone you care about who might be silently struggling. And I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which habit resonated most with you. Your voice matters. If you'd like to support the channel and help us reach more men over 60 with life-changing health advice, please consider making a small donation. Every bit helps us create more content just for you. Thank you for being here.